What's up, horror fan? Welcome back to the channel. So for today's episode, we are talking about Santa Clarita Diet, the TV series that was on Netflix from about early 2017 to early mid 2019. It did get a 3-season run, and in my opinion, should have gotten at least 4 or 5 seasons. This was a tremendous horror sitcom, which we don't get really a lot of, or hardly any of them. Usually if we do get them, they will show up obviously on a streaming platform. And I thought this one was just one of those unique lightning in a bottle sitcoms that was horror related. If you haven't seen it already, I would highly recommend jumping over to Netflix and binge watching it. Again, it's only 3 seasons, 10 episodes per season, I believe, so 30 episodes. And as you can see here, it stars Drew Barrymore and Timothy Olyphant. Now, again, it was canceled, in my opinion, prematurely, and they even ended the season 3 off on a cliffhanger. Back then, when the show ended, you were fully expecting a season 4, and then I think it was just probably 3 to 6 months later, we found out that the show was in fact canceled. And that was just a punch to the stomach, in my opinion. It was a great show. They ended it on a cliffhanger, and then you find out the show is canceled. You know, I previewed this article a little bit, and the creator, Victor Fresco, talks about why he purposefully left it on a cliffhanger. I don't know if that was a middle finger to Netflix for canceling the show without really telling him that that they were canceling the show, which I get it. You want to kind of stick it to them, but as a fan, do you really want to do that to the fans of the show? And this wasn't a, big, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe the show. I mean, it had its audience, but it wasn't as big as if I were to compare it to something like Stranger Things. Like Stranger Things has a wide audience, has a wide fan base. Now this wasn't exactly like that, wasn't that big, but it did have its audience, and it was a great show, which I still think earned the right to get at least a 4th season to close it out properly, and possibly even a 5th season. But if you haven't seen already, jump over there, check it out. But we're going to jump into some of these details here in a moment, and we're also on today's episode going to cover off on the unexpected horror film, or the horror take on the DC villain Clayface that James Gunn will be bringing into his new DCU universe that he has just kicked off earlier this year with Creature Commandos on HBO Max, and from a feature film perspective, will be kicking off next summer with the new Superman film. But the fact that we're going to be getting a very specific horror / thriller / mystery take on any DC villain for that matter, but the fact that it's going to be Clayface and it's going to be live action, I am very interested in seeing what this script is going to be, because that's what apparently sold him on doing the film, and doing a horror version was the script from, I believe, Mike Flanagan. So we're going to look into those details as well. So as we start off here, as I mentioned, Santa Clarita Diet creator details the heartbreaking way he knew the Netflix series was canceled. So Santa Clarita Diet creator Victor Fresco recalls the heartbreaking way he learned of the show's cancellation. Debuting in February 2017 and running for 3 seasons on Netflix, Santa Clarita Diet focuses on a married couple that is regular in every way except for one crucial detail. The wife, Sheila Hammond, who's played by Drew Barrymore, begins to crave human flesh. The horror sitcom also starred Timothy Olyphant as one of the relatively early streaming series prior to the arrival of Disney Plus and Apple TV. The comedy was met with solid initial reactions and garnered largely positive reviews. In a feature for The Guardian, which looks at TV show cancellations and how the creators responded, Fresco details his decision to end Santa Clarita Diet on a cliffhanger. He explained that he had a feeling that Netflix would cancel the series and didn't want to make that decision any easier. Quote, "We didn't want to make it easier for them to cancel us. We thought, why are we doing their work for them?" Fresco also discusses about being blindsided by the cancellation of Santa Clarita Diet, recalling how he was in the process of editing season 3 when he learned from an assistant producer that the sets were being dismantled. Quote, "That's how I heard it was definitely not coming back," he said. In the quote below, Fresco also talks about why it was an uphill battle to get to season 4 and how that connects to pay bonuses that a renewal would trigger. Quote, "It was explained to us that you don't have to be popular with everybody. This was one of the appeals. Just find a niche audience. You really have at best a 3-year run unless you're a monster hit. If you look closely at your deal, you'll see there's a huge disincentive for them to order seasons 4 and 5 because they're really making a big payout then. The last little bit here, one of the common defenses of streaming cancellations is that it's fundamentally nothing new. Decades earlier, broadcast networks would sometimes cancel a show and shelve the remaining episodes only a few weeks after a disappointing premiere. While that is undoubtedly true, it ignores the fundamental differences in how TV viewing has changed and just goes on just a little bit more about the cancellation, other shows. I'll put the link of this article in the description below if you want to check out the rest of these details. But as I mentioned at the start of this episode, I felt that this was just canceled premature. And as you can see, the creator even goes on to say he purposefully, again, ended it on the cliffhanger to make it a little bit more difficult for Netflix when it came to the cancellation. And again, as a fan, that's just disappointing to hear that from the creator. In some ways I can understand, in some ways, why would you want to do that to the fans of the show? At least give some closure on the series. I mean, this show's been canceled now. We're coming up on 6 years. I don't see this making any resurgence back, whether it's on Netflix or any other platform. All the actors and actresses have fully moved on over the last 6 years. And I think if you bring back the series, even for 1 or 2 seasons, it's not going to garner the same audience, the same reaction as it did, back then in 2017 when it first started. So I think they kind of lost that opportunity if they were going to try to bring the show back for even a one and done season to close it out. All right, moving on to our next topic. James Gunn didn't plan to make a Clayface movie in the DCU, but Mike Flanagan's script was too good. DC Universe head James Gunn didn't intend to make a Clayface movie, but Mike Flanagan's pitch and script convinced him to. So as I mentioned, at the beginning of the episode, I don't think we ever would have anticipated a horror take or horror spin on any DC villain going into this new DCU universe that James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing. If you have not already seen the Superman trailer, and take a pause, go watch it and come back, and you'll understand where I'm coming from when I'm saying you wouldn't expect a horror take. When you look at that trailer, when you look at those characters, especially the look and feel of the trailer, you don't necessarily feel like this is an environment or a world built around horror, thriller, and tragedy. Now, tragedy maybe a little bit, because again, there's points in the Superman trailer where you can see there is some tragedy there. But horror and thriller, I don't see that very much in that trailer, nor would I have anticipated that happening within the DCU. So this is some interesting news, and again, I'm happy for it. Happy to see what they can do with a horror take on a classic DC comic character. So back in 2021, filmmaker Mike Flanagan let it be known on social media that he was interested in making a standalone horror thriller tragedy movie that would center on the DC Comics character Clayface, who is usually presented as a villain in the pages of Batman comic books. A while after that, he confirmed that he had met with veteran DC movie producer John Berg to pitch a horror-leaning take on Clayface, as well as ideas for DC properties Scarecrow, Justice League Dark, and Constantine. We've seen Scarecrow, I think the last time, we've seen Scarecrow a little bit, not as much as I think we should, and not as scary of a version or horror version as I think we should. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for that. Justice League Dark, I don't think we're ever really going to see a true live-action take on that. And Constantine, we had Keanu Reeves in the original Constantine film, and it was reported about 3 or 4 months ago that he was confirmed to come back for Constantine 2. So it will be, with such a large gap between the first film and now this sequel, it'll be interesting to see how they tie those two together. I'm sure the look and feel will be very different, just again from how films have progressed over time. But at least we are going to be finally getting a Constantine Part 2, and Keanu Reeves is returning. The meeting kind of went nowhere, but then in March of 2023, Deadline broke that the news that Flanagan had scheduled another Clayface pitch meeting, this time with DC Studios bosses James Gunn and Peter Safran. And last month, it was announced that Flanagan is officially writing a Clayface movie that will be part of the DC Universe film franchise that's being overseen by Gunn and Safran. During an interview with I09, Gunn admitted that he had no intention of making a Clayface movie as part of the DCU, but the project earned a green light because Flanagan's script is so good. The first chapter of the DCU films is being referred to as Gods and Monsters and is expected to consist of the animated series Creature Commandos, Season 2 of Peacemaker, the Gunn-directed Superman film, Craig Gillespie's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, Annie Mouché's The Brave and the Bold. So side note, Annie Mouché's The Brave and the Bold, which is a Batman film, was recently reported to be on hold indefinitely. So No idea when we're going to be getting that one. And there's also been the recent report that the Batman that's being ran by Matt Reeves, that isn't part of the DCU universe, it's its own separate world, has also been pushed back an additional year, so to 2017. So anything Batman related seems to be on hold or being pushed out. No words as to what's driving that. We might find out something soon at some point, but I doubt we will. James Mangold's Swamp Thing, the animated project dynamic duo, and a film based on the team called The Authority. There are other projects in development as well. Clayface made its way into the lineup and set to receive a theatrical release on September 11th, 2026. Gunn said, "I didn't plan on making a Clayface movie. Mike came in, he pitched this wonderful idea. I was like, damn, I can't believe you got me to want to make a Clayface movie." But he's got to write the script, and who knows how that's going to work. He goes and he writes the script. First draft is great, second draft is even better. And then I'm like, let's do it. So we found a place for it, because if there's quality stuff, we can find a way to work it in. As for other projects, Gunn said there are a lot of things that are getting reported that I haven't greenlit and I haven't said okay to. Some of those are true in terms of they're in development, and some of them are not true. And just because they're in development, that doesn't mean I'm going to make that movie. There's a lot of things people seem to be counting on that it may be unwise to count on. Again, I think this is good news. It's always good news to see the horror genre or the horror aspects kind of spill over into other worlds, like the comic book world. In this case, it's going to be the DCU with Clayface and Mike Flanagan writing the script. Now, as far as who's going to be directing that, and we've all seen this happen, you get a final script, and with James Gunn and Peter Safran being co-CEOs of DC Studios, it might not face these problems, but I feel it still will. So you have Mike Flanagan, who's going to write a script, James Gunn, who will approve and greenlight the script. You bring in a director who says, yeah, I want to make these changes. So then you have this back and forth, I'm assuming, between him, James Gunn, and Mike to either make script changes, and depending upon where those land, it could end up in a position where they don't even make the movie at all. And side note, I think a lot is banking on whether or not Superman come next year is successful. If Superman is not successful, I think there's a lot of projects that will not move forward even after they've been greenlit. So in order for us to even see a Clayface horror thriller film, a lot of these other films that are coming before it, these other projects, are going to need to be very successful for this to even happen. But again, even if that all happens and we get to the point where we get a director, we start getting casting done for this, and they start making script changes, I wonder then if those script changes could be so dramatic that we end up not even getting a Clayface horror film, and they just play it safe and do a regular comic book Clayface, and that would be unfortunate. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's episode. I just want to say a quick thank you to all the new subscribers to the channel. It is greatly appreciated, and thank you for all the support. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think about a DCU Clayface horror version. And were you ever interested in Santa Clarita Diet? Did you watch the show? Were you upset on how they ended it? And now you should know a little bit more details on how and why it ended. Does that, make it a little bit more of a sour taste as well? Let us know down in the comment section. And also, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. And we greatly appreciate it. And we will see you at the next one. Peace.